Sure can. Thank you.
Ready? They just gave me the green light. Okay, I'd like to call to order the regular council meeting of October 11, 2011. Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Here.
Mr. Sensi.
Here.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Here.
Ms. Gibbons.
Here.
Mr. Hannon.
Present.
Mr. Harrison.
Present.
Mr. McLean.
Here.
Mr. Mowry.
Here.
Mr. O'Brien.
Present.
All members are present and accounted for. At this time, can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have no chair announcements this evening. At this time, I would like to turn the reports to the officials and the library director's report.
Good evening. My name is Christine McIntosh. I'm the director of your public library, where we provide opportunities to explore, learn, create, and connect. First, I want to say thank you to all those who participated in our 4th annual Bethel Park Fantastic Four Golf Cherries golf outing. So if you sponsored or sponsored the event, if you were a golfer, a volunteer, or you donated a raffle basket, a big, big thank you. We had 104 golfers and a fun time on a very beautiful Monday day. The net profit of this event was just over $19,000. So that was divided equally among the 4 charities, which are the Community Foundation, the Education Foundation, the Historical Society, and the library. And each organization received $4,753. That was one event that the library participated in during the month of September for Love Your Library Month. The library raised an additional $15,080 through direct donations, raffles, and special sales. Funds raised by all libraries in Allegheny County during the month of September are eligible for a prorated match through a $200,000 match pool generally provided by the Jack Buncher Foundation. So just to be clear, this is not a dollar for dollar match, but historically the match has been about 25 cents on the dollar, so that will mean an additional $3,700 for Bethel Park Library. We have some classes and events coming up, and I want to remind everyone that masks are required while in the library, regardless of your vaccination status. Of course, those with a medical condition or those under the age of 2 are exempt, and masks are required during all classes and events. For adults, we have a few really fun things coming up. Preventing identity theft on Wednesday, October 13th at 6:30 p.m. We have our annual Haunted Hat Tea on Friday, October 15th at 11 a.m. There's still a few spots left for that, but we need to know pretty quickly because we provide lunch. We have the author of Haunted Roads of Western Pennsylvania coming on Wednesday, October 20th at 6:30 to tell some spooky stories from his book. And we have How Money Works on Tuesday, October 26th at 6:30 p.m. For our little ones, we do have story time 2 times a day, 5 days a week. We're trying something new this fall. We're doing library play dates. So on Mondays through November 1st from 10 a.m. till noon, for those ages 1 to 3 with a caregiver, you can come and join other families for free play and sensory exploration with stations prepared by the library staff. For our elementary age kids, we have a program called Compare and Contrast Military Foot Lockers, which will be held on Thursday, November 4th at 6:30 p.m. for grades 3 through 6. Representatives from Soldiers and Sailors Museum will be here and will focus on a soldier's life with comparisons made between the Civil War, World War I, World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam War, and Desert Storm. The adult is welcome to stay as well. It sounds like a very interesting class. For teens, we have Fear Factor on Thursday, October 28th at 6:30 p.m., where teens in grades 7 and up will come and compete in challenges. The person with the highest score will win a $25 Amazon gift card. We do have teen lounge hours every Tuesday and Thursday from 3 to 5 p.m., so you can come enjoy some snacks, get your homework done, play a game. The teen lounge is always open, but during these set times, a staff member will be there to assist you. And some family fun, we have our Halloween Hullabaloo on Friday, October 29th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. We ask that you wear your costume and bring a bag to hold your treats. This is for all ages. Little ones should come with their caregiver. So for more information or to register for a class or event, call the library, visit our website, or stop in and see us. That's all I have this evening.
Thank you very much. Any questions from council? Hearing none, can we turn to the police chief's report, and Chief O'Connor?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Hello, everybody. Chief here. The end of the month, we will have Halloween. I'm going to ask everybody to drive carefully, actually drive extra carefully. Remember, our children are our most precious resource of this community, and we want to protect them when they're out getting their candy. So please, please drive carefully. After 18 months, or close to that, we are going to try and have Crime Watch back in person November the 1st, which is a Monday, at the Community Center, 7 p.m. So hope to see you there, and you can learn all about crime in Bethel Park. And finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. It's the 3rd anniversary of the incident, the Tree of Life, coming up this month. Please remember our Bethel Park officers who serve on the CERT team. They responded to the Tree of Life to help the city end the violence that day, and they still go out probably once a month and serve some hazardous warrant somewhere around the South Hills. So please keep them in your thoughts and prayers. And on a personal note, I knew some of the victims, and I ask you to remember them and their families, because I'm sure they're still grieving right now, and it's never going to go away. So, shalom. Questions?
Hearing
Excellent.
none, thank you, Chief O'Connor. Can we turn to the fire chief's report?
Good evening. My name is Rob Usselman. I'm with the Bethel Park Volunteer Fire Company. I am the Assistant Chief. This is going to be our incident breakdown for the month of September 2021. We had 10 structures/oven fires, 6 flooding incidents, 2 gas leaks, 2 smoke investigations, 4 electrical conditions, 2 assist the medics and/or the police, 1 elevator rescue, 1 CO alarm, and 18 fire alarms for a total of 46 incidents. A relatively busy month for us, but not quite as busy as the previous months, and we always like those low call volume months. I would like to say one other thing. Coming up in November, it's our favorite time of year in the fire service. It's change your clocks, which also means change your batteries in your smoke detectors and CO detectors. Obviously, it's a built-in reminder. We like to use that as a constant reminder. Whenever you change your clocks forward or backwards, we recommend changing your batteries in your smoke detectors and CO detectors. And one other thing, the weather will eventually get colder. We ask now that now's a good time to get your furnace serviced and have, any other appliances, whether it be a chimney, have it checked and make sure it's working properly and there's no cracks that can create incidents as the weather does turn colder. That's all I have for this evening. Are there any questions?
Hearing none, thank you very much. Can we turn to municipal manager's report?
Council, thank you so much. I just want to take a couple minutes and brief the public on a little bit of a report since what has happened in the last month. Normally, I like to introduce employees, but we have new employees to introduce today. But what I'd like to do is just give a quick update on some initiatives. You heard me talk about our sustainability certification, and municipality has been looking for new ways to innovate, conserve resources, and reduce costs. To that end, we have received our Level Sustainable Pennsylvania Community Certification. This is a voluntary performance recognition program to help municipalities reach sustainability goals. I am proud to say that Bethel Park has achieved gold certification, one of only 50 communities in Pennsylvania. And we will continue to improve, and we're looking to achieve platinum certification, which would put us as one of only 10 communities in Pennsylvania. This would be a great distinction, and we want to keep moving forward with this. Over the last month, we've done several groundbreaking events. The first one started with the Sawmill Green Stream Restoration Project, Birch Tree Park's new playground and stormwater management project, Oak Tree Park's new playground and stormwater management project, and this Friday, we will conduct another groundbreaking event at Millennium Park. At each groundbreaking event, local residents have been invited to come out, talk with the officials, learn more about the respective projects. The new playgrounds are really coming along, and especially Birch Tree Park is actually wrapping up installation right now. It looks awesome. The kids are gonna love it. As soon as they get done with Birch Tree Park, the contractor can immediately move over to Oak Tree Park and begin that installation. As soon as they're done with Oak Tree, they're gonna jump right over to Millennium, where we're gonna do our groundbreaking on Friday. If you would like to know more about these projects, or project information is posted on our project site, along with information on the municipal website, blog, Facebook page, and BPTV's YouTube channel. I want to talk a minute about the budget and our strategic plan. The staff has been working tremendously developing the 2022 budget and the strategic plans. The preliminary capital and general budgets have been posted, and this evening, Council conducted the first of several budget meetings with municipal staff. We're using a new format for the budget that allows for greater transparency, readability, and should provide for a better user interface for our residents. The strategic plan will be adopted alongside the budget at next month's council meeting. We have taken feedback from key partners and stakeholders to help develop the municipality's path going forward in 2022. Due to COVID, the number of participants was reduced, but we do look forward to a more robust group in future years. The website. As you've seen, our website is making leaps and bounds over the last 12 to 24 months, but it still lacks in user interface and resident recognition. So I've asked the staff to look at the website, and specifically our project manager. He's going to conduct a complete overhaul and reorganize our website to provide a better experience for all of our site visitors. As most of you know, we just completed our communication survey. This was a really in-depth undertaking, and we allowed our residents to provide us that feedback in either a written form, an online survey, either at the community center, the farmers market, and at the library. Well, we've got the results, and we are tabulating them. And this will let us know how our residents receive information and for how best to get information out to them. So, and finally, closing, as we bid farewell to our very, very successful farmers market, we rank number 2. We're up one from last year, and we have one more to go. We should receive the results here in late October. I'm hoping for a first place finish on that one. But like I said, as we bid farewell to our farmers market, we say hello and welcome back to No Cook Tuesdays. I'm a fan, so please get on out there to the community center parking lot in the playground and partake in No Cook Tuesdays. That will continue from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. each Tuesday until November 23rd. So head on out there. A list of the vendors will be posted on the recreation page each week, so you can know exactly what to get. But that's all I have. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Any questions from council or anybody?
Hearing none, can we turn to the mayor's report? And Mayor Allen. I think he stole all the good stuff, Mayor. We'll have to reorganize
I'm done.
this.
Yeah, I need to go first next month.
Got my vote.
Oh, no, I still have a lot. But he didn't talk about Halloween, so that's good. So, just an update on Halloween. Halloween trick or treat is October 31st, which is Sunday from 6 to 8. Always was, and probably always will be. This year we'll be having 2 parade routes, one north, one south. They'll be a little shorter than last year, and that'll be October 30th. And I believe it starts at 9 o'clock. If you saw pumpkins on your street and they happen to be painted over black, that means it's not going that way this year. Just look for the orange pumpkins. That's the route that it'll take. And the last thing on Halloween, this will be our 3rd year for our decorating contest. So we're still looking for a couple judges. If anyone needs to volunteer, that would be terrific. Or you can nominate a house by calling Janet Davin at 831-6800, extension 211. So that's our Halloween season. Fall Cleanup Day, October 23rd. Again, if you have a group that's interested in participating in that, call Janet at the same number. Last Friday, we had our 90-plus luncheon, which we have every year for residents that are 90 years and older, and it just gets better. We had 100 people there. We actually had 6 people that were over 100. So it's incredible, and I want to thank the staff and council for okaying it every year, because it's one of the best things that we do. And one of our speakers last week actually is one of our residents, and I'm going to bring her up here now. It's Judy Vicelli. Judy was involved, and you probably saw it on the news last week, about one of the residents was scammed or tried to be scammed out of $30,000. Well, Judy stopped that scam along with the police, so Judy, come on up. Okay. Now tell us your story, how you did it again, like you did last week.
A gentleman came into the bank and he wanted to talk to the manager, which was me, and he wanted a large sum of money. And I'm like, well, what do you need it for? He said, I can't tell you. I said, really? What do you need it for? So going on, he kept persisting he couldn't tell me he wasn't allowed. And then he said his lawyer told him he wasn't allowed. I said, oh, this isn't right. I said, you need to stay here. This isn't right. You're being scammed. He said, it's my grandson. I said, no, it's not your grandson. Let's call. He's in Slippery Rock College. So we called the college, and the lady thought I was crazy. But then we called Bethel Police, which did an amazing, amazing job. They came up. They made him feel really at home. And he really didn't believe them either until they kept talking to him and that, and then they, set up the guy. They were coming to get the money from his house and stuff. So if that ever happens to anybody, just hang up or call Bethel Police.
It was very nice that you were on top of it, and like you even told me before, that you might even fall for the scam if you didn't know any better. So we appreciate everything that you did, and because of that, we have a certificate of recognition. Presented to Judy Vicelli for your dedication to the Bethel Park community, awarded the 11th day of October, 2021, and thank you very much. One other thing I wanted to mention is tomorrow at the community center is flu shots. So if you need your flu shot, go up to the community center between noon and 4, and you could ask for Nora, or you can ask for John. John gives me mine, I don't feel a thing. So, but I'm sure Nora's good too, because she's done it in the past. So having said that, if I could have Dr. Campbell and Lawrence come up. And Nora, this is your night. Come on up. Yes, you. Because you. Okay. You're giving the flu shots, that's right. So everyone knows Nora. She's been here for quite a while, 42 years. Well, Nora is retiring. So because of that, I have a proclamation to recognize Nora's retirement from Tri-Community South. I don't have my glasses, so I'm going to try the best that I can. Whereas Tri-Community South opened its doors, yeah, that will be. That's better. Tri-Community South opened its doors and started providing quality emergency care to residents of the municipality of Bethel Park, South Park Township, and Upper St. Clair Township on December 31st, 1977, with a service of 33 square miles. And whereas Nora, RN EMT-P, has served many positions over the years, including volunteer, part-time employee, full-time employee, supervisor, supervisor of support services, culminating as director in 2001. And whereas under Nora's leadership, the system remains financially stable and operates with a positive ledger balance, requiring no funding from the municipality's tax bases. And whereas in 2005, Tri-Community South and its new headquarters at 5490 Progress Boulevard, while Nora managed the project, and it came ahead of schedule and under budget. And whereas Nora has been recognized for her outstanding contributions to EMS in southwestern Pennsylvania, and will be receiving the Dr. George Marchek Award for outstanding contribution to EMS for Pennsylvania. Whereas under Nora's leadership, Tri-Community South has received numerous awards, including 3-year accreditation from the commissions of the Accreditation of Ambulance Services. Tri-Community is one of the 178, only one of the 178 ambulance services throughout the United States, Canada, and West Indies to receive this accreditation. So therefore, I, Jack Allen, the mayor of the municipality of Bethel Park, do hereby recognize Nora Helfrich on her retirement and given under my hand in the seal of the mayor of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, on this day, the 11th of October, 2021. Thank you for all you've done, and good luck in your retirement. And Nora is never at a loss for words, so we'll turn the microphone over to her.
You lured me here to talk about flu shots. Okay, they're from 12 to 4, and I do give a better shot than John. Thank you very much. So, thank you. This really means a lot, and you can't do this job without the support of the managers of Bethel, Upper St. Clair, and South Park, in addition to the employees. They work very, very hard. So far this month, we've responded to over 500 emergencies, and please be safe with COVID. I don't need to lecture you on that. It's on the increase, so we're doing our best. And Chief, you have our sympathies. We are part of that, and think about all of you to be safe. So thank you. This means a lot. 42 years, right?
Right.
You started with us.
I did.
Yeah, did you know that?
No.
He was an EMT with us.
77.
Yeah, remember?
77 is when I started.
1977, we're old. I'll be 73 this month, so it's time. But thank you very, very much. I
Hey,
really
thank you and enjoy your retirement. Okay. And that's my report, Mr. President.
We're gonna miss you.
I'll miss you too. I'm here for you, though. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor and Nora. At this time, can I turn to the approval of the minutes and Mr. Hannon?
The first one is the regular meeting of September 13th. I move that we approve the minutes from the September 13th, 2021 regular council meeting. Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Hannan, second by Mr. McLean, that we approve the minutes from the September 13th, 2021 regular council meeting. Any discussion on this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Council Magno,
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mr. Hannan,
Yes.
Mr. Harrison,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Mowry,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. Hannan.
Next is the minutes from the September 27th public hearing. I move that we approve the minutes from the September 27th, 2021 public hearing. Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Hannan and second by Mr. McLean that we approve the minutes from the September 27th, 2021 public hearing. Any discussion on this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Council Magno,
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mr. Hannan,
Yes.
Mr. Harrison,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Mowry,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. Hannan.
The next item is the special meeting minutes of September 27th. I move that we approve the minutes from the special meeting on September 27th, 2021. Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Hannan, second by Mr. McLean, that we approve the minutes from the special meeting on September 27th, 2021. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Council Magno,
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mr. Hannan,
Yes.
Mr. Harrison,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Mowry,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. At this time, I would like to turn to the approval of the bills and payrolls and Mr. Hannan.
I move that we approve a list of bills 101121 in the amount of $2,254,100.71. Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Hannan and second by Mr. McLean that we approve the list of bills number 101121 in the amount of $2,254,100.71. Any discussion on this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Council Magno,
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mr. Hannan,
Yes.
Mr. Harrison,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Mowry,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. At this time, I would like to turn to the resident comment section for non-agenda items. Hearing none, can we turn to general policy and finance? And I didn't forget you this evening, and Mr. McLean.
Thank you. First item under general policy and finance is ordinance 10-11-21A, Penvest debt ordinance, and resolution R10-11-21A. This actually involves two motions, both of which relate to our obtaining a loan from Penvest for the Thunderwood Drainage Improvement Project. I move that we approve ordinance number 10-11-21A per the Finance Director's memorandum dated September 23rd, 2021. Second.
There's a motion by Mr. McLean, second by Mr. Hannan, that we approve ordinance number 10-11-21A per the Finance Director's memorandum dated September 23rd, 2021. Just for the record, I will be abstaining from these two votes. I currently serve on the Penvest Board of Directors, and I believe it would be a conflict of interest, so I will be abstaining on the next two motions. Any discussion from council? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Council Magno,
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mr. Hannan,
Yes.
Mr. Harrison,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Mowry,
Abstain.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0 with one abstention. Okay, can we, Mr. McLean?
I move that we approve Resolution R10-11-21A per the Finance Director's Memorandum dated September 23rd, 2021.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. McLean and second by Mr. Hannan that we approve Resolution R10-11-21A per the Finance Director's Memorandum dated September 23rd, 2021. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Sensi?
Yes.
Mr. Council Magno?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes.
Mr. Harrison?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Mowry abstains. Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0 with one abstention. Mr. McLean.
Next item is Resolution R10-11-21B, Parks, Recreation, and Leisure Services Board Bylaw Update. I move that we approve Resolution R10-11-21B per the Recreation Director's Memorandum dated September 20, 2021.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. McLean, second by Mr. Hannan, that we approve Resolution R10-11-21B per the Recreation Director's Memorandum dated September 20th, 2021. This is really an update of the bylaws of the Recreation Board. I just want to thank the board and staff, Chuck Stover. They worked several months on updating these, making them current, establishing the boards that meet our needs for today and in the future. I believe it's been several years since they were last updated. So this is a combination of a lot of work by a lot of people, in particular the Recreation Board. And hopefully when this passes, I just want to say thank you to the board and staff for their due diligence. Any other discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Sensi?
Yes.
Mr. Council Magno?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes.
Mr. Harrison?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Mowry?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. McLean.
Next item is ordinances 10-11-21B, C, D, and E, related to the Thunderwood condemnation of easements. There's actually 4 separate motions. These all relate to our ongoing efforts to obtain the necessary easements for the Thunderwood Drainage Improvement Project. We have worked out some of these arrangements with some of the property owners. We're going to continue to work with property owners. However, in order to stay on track to close under the financing, we need to move forward with ordinances authorizing condemnation if necessary, and that's the purpose of the motions this evening.
Thank you, Mr. McLean.
First motion, I move that we approve ordinance 10-11-21B, authorizing the condemnation of the easement over parcel 774-F-12 for the Thunderwood Drainage Improvement Project.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. McLean, second by Mr. Hannan, that we approve ordinance 10-11-21B, authorizing the condemnation of easements over parcel 774-F-12 for the Thunderwood Drainage Improvement Project. As Mr. McLean said, we continue to work with the residents because the timetable with the Penvest loan. We're going to do this. Staff has been in contact with all of the residents, so hopefully we're not going to have to use these, but we just need to do it from I'll say a paperwork standpoint to keep the project on track. Any other discussion of these items? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Sensi?
Yes.
Mr. Council Magno?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes.
Mr. Harrison?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Mowry?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. McLean.
I move that we approve ordinance 10-11-21C, authorizing the condemnation of the easement over parcel 774-F-14 for the Thunderwood Drainage Improvement Project.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. McLean, second by Mr. Hannan, that we approve ordinance number 10-11-21C, authorizing the condemnation of the easement over parcel 774-F-14 for the Thunderwood Drainage Improvement Project. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannan.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. McLean.
I move that we approve ordinance 10-11-21D, authorizing the condemnation of the easement over parcel 774-F-276 for the Thunderwood Drainage Improvement Project.
Second. There's a motion by Mr. McLean, second by Mr. Hannan, that we approve ordinance 10-11-21D, authorizing the condemnation of the easement of parcel 774-F-276 for the Thunderwood Drainage Improvement Project. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannan.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. McLean.
I move that we approve ordinance 10-11-21E, authorizing the condemnation of the easement over parcel 774-A-2020, 220 for the Thunderwood Drainage Improvement Project.
Second. There's a motion and a second that we approve ordinance 10-11-21E, authorizing the condemnation of the easement over parcel 774-A-220 for the Thunderwood Drainage Improvement Project. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannan.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Motion.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Little delay in the action there, Mr. Christian.
My apologies.
Okay, Mr. McLean.
Next item is resolution number R10-11-21C, consent order agreement. I move that we approve resolution R10-11-21C and the consent order agreement with ACHD per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated October 5, 2021.
Second. There's a motion by Mr. McLean and second by Mr. Hannan that we approve resolution R10-11-21C and the consent order agreement with ACHD per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated October 5th, 2021. I'm going to briefly talk about, there's 3 items on our agenda. They're related, but they're not related. The first item is the consent order. This has been going on for a few years. A third of Bethel Park is in the Alcoasand watershed. As you probably read in the paper, they have been, the DEP in the EPA is mandated improvements in the Alcoasand system, and since a third of Bethel Park flows into this system, you know, we're required, it's highly recommended that we sign on to the consent order. And I'll summarize it by saying the consent order is a mandate that you invest money to take water and I&I infiltration out of the sanitary sewer system. So if we sign it, we're going to spend money, and if we don't sign it, we'll probably spend more money because the regulators are the ones that are negotiating this. The ACHD is actually the Allegheny County Health Department. This is a long-range plan. We met with the authority a few weeks ago. They have been working on it much more diligently than, you know, from what we have, because they kind of control it. So the first one is the consent order. The next 2 are tied to it, but more indirectly. They are transfer agreements as part of the regionalization of Alcoasand. They're taking over the main trunk lines, one being Sawmill 1, which runs into Bethel Park at Route 88, and the other one is McLaughlin watershed or interceptor, which actually runs to Bethel Park from Upper St. Clair. If we sign and do the transfer over to Alcoasand, they then will be responsible for any upgrades or any work needed to be done on that, on either one of these interceptors. If we don't sign on it, they could mandate that the municipality does it. Essentially, it's a regionalization plan. If we do vote to turn these over, it really means that Alcoasand is going to come back and at some point do some projects in those two areas. We're still going to be required as part of this agreement to continue to do additional work in the watershed. So there's 3 separate items. They're kind of all tied together indirectly, but once again, we don't have a lot of choice. Any discussion? Mr. O'Brien.
Wow, we've been at this a long time, and this council and the municipal authority has worked very hard at this, like the councils and municipal authorities in the past. And sometimes things get under your skin, and this kind of gets under my skin, because the consent order is an unfunded mandate. And the only thing we have to pay for it is the sewer rates. And we took a stand a long time ago in understanding that we needed to do something. And the authority and council had a wonderful approach with plans in place. And we understood that if we don't start now, the cost later will be tremendous. Other communities kind of just put their head in the sand and waited for tomorrow. The one that really gets me in this is the McLaughlin Run. We always knew there was problems. If you drove up McLaughlin Run Road on a hot summer day, you knew there was problems. So we are at the top of that watershed, and we were asked to do certain things. And we met and we exceeded those benchmarks. And once again, even with that in mind, we are receiving a consent order or a mandate or an unfunded mandate. And that just is I just think people need to have explanations. And the body that does the majority of this work is the municipal authority. And I know I'm going to put John on the spot here because he is the vice chairman of the municipal authority. If he doesn't mind, on the spur of the moment, to come up and explain or give us an update, an overview of the status. I think it's necessary, at least for me, because I've been in this for such a long time, to explain, just give us an update of what kind of money and what the updates are. Do you mind doing that, John?
If you could just state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is John Oakes. I live at 861 Clifton Road in Bethel Park. I'm the vice chair of our municipal authority, Bethel Park Municipal Authority. I'm sorry I'm kind of put on the spot. I don't have any formal speech or anything about the transfer and consent agreement. But pertaining to the transfer and consent agreement, I thought it was very informative. Our joint meeting that we had a few weeks ago, I thought we tied up a lot of loose ends. Any communication and clarification items that we had, I thought we worked through pretty well. As a board member, I do think that we have to accept the consent order. I don't think we have a choice. That being said, the last 4 or 5 years, we've worked with the DEP to change some of the verbiage and got the agreement changed in some more favorable terms per the agreement, for our municipality. As for the transfer agreement, I also believe we have to take into consideration the transfer agreement and sign it. There's one sticking point though, as McLaughlin Run, as everyone talks about, we've spent over $8 million in the McLaughlin Run watershed, and we have to be credited for that, all that work that we did. We did far more than any other community did, a lot by far, and we have to be credited for that, and I want to make sure that Bethel Park is treated fairly, and that would be our only sticking point. So coming up in our next meetings in October, we're going to be going over that and voting on it, and talking more about it. We do have to sign it by the end of October, but that would be my views on both. But I definitely want to make sure that Bethel Park's treated fairly and we get credit for all the work that we've done, because we did very well in all of our watersheds actually. Thank you guys.
Thank you, John. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. I guess I should have mentioned before, but is it's a authority, a municipality, as well as South Park Township are involved in the authority, and it's up, we have to vote on it, then the authority also votes on it. So we're going to be taking action for, against, and the authority will be taking action hopefully by the end of the month. So are there any other discussions? Hearing none. Mr. Christian, will you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. McLean.
Next two items are the Sawmill Run and McLaughlin Run transfer agreements that we just discussed. I move that we sign the Sawmill Run transfer agreement per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated October 5, 2021, contingent on the approval of the Bethel Park Municipal Authority.
Second.
There's a motion and second that we sign the Sawmill Run transfer agreement per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated October 5th, 2021, contingent on the approval of the Bethel Park Municipal Authority. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. McLean.
I move that we sign the McLaughlin Run transfer agreement per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated October 5, 2021, contingent on approval of the Bethel Park Municipal Authority.
Second.
There's a motion and a second, motion by Mr. McLean, second by Mr. Hannon, that we sign the McLaughlin Run transfer agreement per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated October 5th, 2021, contingent on the approval of the Bethel Park Municipal Authority. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. McLean.
There are no further agenda items under General Policy and Finance.
Are there any additional items?
Mr. Murr,
Mr. Harrison.
I just want to take the opportunity to remind the people that the next time the council meets in the council chamber, it'll be the November monthly meeting. The November election will be behind us, and at least three of the familiar faces you see up here today is going to change. So I just want to remind you to mark your calendar. Don't forget to vote on November the 2nd so your voice is heard. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison.
Mr. Mowry?
Mr. McLean.
One additional item. Mr. Christian noted before that the capital budget and the general budget have been prepared and have been presented to council. We began our review of the budget this evening. We will be meeting again a week from tonight for a full budget meeting, and there is a public hearing scheduled 2 weeks from tonight on October 25th for the public to provide their comments. Our review is preliminary, but we're happy to report that based upon the preliminary budgets that we have reviewed, we are contemplating and proposing no tax increase for 2022. And see no reason why we can't hold to that through the rest of the budget review process. We will be continuing to review it, which means we will be continuing to look at the specific allocations of the budget among the programs and the projects, including the capital projects. As Mr. Christian noted, the budget is available online and in the library for the public to review. We encourage you to take a look at it and provide comments to us at our meetings upcoming a week from tonight and 2 weeks from tonight when we have the formal public hearing. Thank you, Mr. Mowry.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. And I will also add that we are proposing no increase to sewer rates.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. McLean.
Yep.
Any additional items? Hearing none, can we turn to health, safety, and welfare? And Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. There are no items on health, safety, and welfare this evening.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Are there any additional items?
I have one.
Mr. O'Brien.
I'd just like to make a quick announcement, or just a comment. We all have been to the Veterans Memorial over here, and we all know that you can buy a paver to recognize veterans. And what I witnessed in the last month, I have to say and make a comment on it. There was a Vietnam veteran who for over a year, he has been struggling with a message that he wants to write in granite about his father and himself and their service to our country. And they're Bethel Parks. They go way back, farther than most that I know. And he had a lot of anxiety. So one of our municipal employees, Michelle, who helps with all the day-to-day, she intervened herself along with myself. And what I witnessed was above and beyond. Michelle took all this man's concerns and over, back and forth. And she made his specific personal message, a lifelong message for him and his father, perfect. And he was excited. And he can't wait to get it in there. And I just wanted to recognize Michelle for her work above and beyond to two individuals who served their country from Bethel Park. And that's all I want to say, Mr. Murray.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Are there any additional items? Hearing none, can we turn to planning and zoning and Mr. Hannon?
First item is a resolution R-10-11-21D. I move that we approve resolution R-10-11-21D for the municipal planners memorandum dated September 21st, 2021.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Hannon and second by Mr. O'Brien that we approve resolution R-10-11-21D per the municipal planners memorandum dated September 21st, 2021. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. Hannon.
Second item is a resolution for the enclave at Cool Springs DEP, the sewage facilities planning module. I move that we approve resolution R-10-11-21E per the municipal planners memorandum dated September 21st, 2021.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Hannon and second by the late Mark O'Brien that we approve resolution R-10-11-21E per the municipal planners memorandum dated September 21st, 2021. Any
I'm still
discussion of this
breathing.
item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Still breathing. Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. Hannon.
Next item is the Barlin Road partial street vacation. I move that we authorize staff to advertise an ordinance to approve the vacation of a portion of Barlin Road for adoption at the November 8th, 2021 regular council meeting per the municipal planners memorandum dated October 7th, 2021. Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Hannon and second by Mr. McLean that we authorize staff to advertise an ordinance to approve the vacation of a portion of Barlin Road for the adoption at the November 8th, 2021 regular council meeting per the municipal planners memorandum dated October 7th, 2021. Real briefly, this is a paper street. It was a street that was laid out when the development was originally completed. It was never accepted by the municipality. So if you have a paper street adjacent to your property, you can apply to have the property. The first option we will give is to split the property down the middle each resident on either side gets half of it. That's what's gonna happen here. So it's a street that may have been laid out many years ago that wasn't accepted by the municipality. Now they're vacating it and then they're gonna acquire the property. Is there any discussion from council? Hearing none, Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannan.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. Hannan.
We have no further items under planning and zoning, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Hannan. Are there any additional items? Hearing none, can we turn to Public Works and Maintenance and Mr. Consolmagno? And we have no residents signed up to speak, sir.
Very good. We have 5 items on, under Public Works and Maintenance. The first, Resolution R10-11-21F, GEDTF Grant Millennium Park Pickleball Courts. I move that we approve Resolution number R10-11-21F to apply for GTRP funding in the amount of $500,000 per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated September 22nd, 2021.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Consolmagno, second by Mr. McLean, that we approve resolution number R10-11-21F to apply for the GTRP funding in the amount of $500,000 per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated September 22nd, 2021. Just to let everybody know, I received a couple calls on this. This is a grant application that we're applying for $500,000. The projected preliminary cost is roughly $1 million. And if we are to receive it, we're pretty sure we're gonna move forward with it. And if we don't receive it, we're gonna have to come up with another source of funding. On many of the recreational opportunities that we're doing, in particular Millennium Park, a number of the park upgrades, we've received a significant amount of grant money to help offset what our costs are. So more to come on the pickleball courts. Any discussion from council? Hearing
President
none,
Mari,
Mr. Consolmagno.
for everyone's clarification, GTRP is Gaming Economic Development Tourism Fund Grant.
Thank you very much for your clarification, sir.
You're welcome.
Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannan.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. Consolmagno.
Resolution R10-11-21G, ADA Ramp Agreement. I move that we approve Resolution R10-11-21G and sign the agreement with PennDOT per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated October 5th, 2021.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Consolmagno and second by Mr. O'Brien that we approve resolution R10-11-21G and sign the agreement with PennDOT per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated October 5th, 2021. Any discussion of this item? Real quick, this is for ADA ramps on Route 88 that PennDOT's going to put them in when they do the sidewalks or redo the sidewalks. This will be our portion. It's just a few $1,000s is the local match to have these ADA compliant sidewalks put in. Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannan.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. Consolmagno.
The Keystone Drive retaining wall replacement, I move that we award the Keystone Drive retaining wall replacement project to A. Moranti Contracting in the amount of $235,925.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Consolmagno and second by Mr. O'Brien that we award the Keystone Drive retaining wall replacement project to A. Moranti Contracting in the amount of $235,925. Any discussion of this item?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. O'Brien.
I would like to thank council. This has been a long time coming. for the approval of this. I know it was overestimate what we originally estimated, but it really needs done, and I want to thank council, and the residents will be thankful also.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Any other discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Council Magno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. Council Magno.
Thunderwood Drive Drainage Improvement Project. I move that we accept the low bid of $611,280 from Jet Jack Incorporated per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated September 20th, 2021.
Second?
There's a motion by Mr. Council Magno and second by Mr. O'Brien that we accept the low bid of $611,280 from Jet Jack Inc. per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated September 20th, 2021. Any discussion of this item? This is one of the projects we identified back in probably 2018. I think this is probably the fourth or fifth project we're completed. It's going to be doing some stormwater drainage down to the retention pond on Clifton, hopefully to prevent some of the runoff that we get from the streets up above. So hopefully the Thunderwood Drive, the intent is to benefit from any stormwater problems may have existing that's coming off the hill and redirecting some of the flow that'll go through this system versus coming down on Thunderwood. So any discussion of this item?
Mr. Mowry, did you know that there were 5 bids that were submitted for this project?
No, I did not, sir.
And, our staff did an excellent job because the bids, we budgeted between $610,000 and $680,000, and it came in at $611,280. I think our staff did an excellent job, as they always do.
Thank you, Mr. Council Magno. Any other discussion from council? Hearing none, Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Council Magno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. Council
And the
Magno.
last one, I move that we execute the GROW grant agreement with Alcoasand per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated October 5th, 2021.
Second?
There's a motion by Mr. Council Magno and second by Mr. O'Brien that we execute the GROW grant agreement with Alcoasand per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated October 5th, 2021. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Council Magno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Real quickly, this was a grant for $108,700. Mr. Oates mentioned earlier, one of the projects we did, this is in the McLaughlin watershed. The total work was around $485,925 in 2019, 2020. So we are getting a slight reimbursement for about 22% of the overall project cost, but we haven't spent a lot of effort in that particular watershed. Any discussion on this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
We already did.
Okay, it all passed. All good.
Move we adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Good night, everyone.